Hey everybody,
Hey guys.
welcome to God Works Podcast. We're glad that you're tuning in and just listening and watching us today. We got Grant again, who's going to share a little bit about transition and what transition looks in the workplace and in life, and just what that looked like in his life. One of the verses that he wanted to just share is such a powerful verse, and it means so much to me. It's Matthew 6:33. And it says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." So Grant, like, in your life, in the circumstances you were in through transition, what did it look like for you to seek God's kingdom and then Him add everything to your life? What did that look like?
Yeah, so 3 years ago, I met this beautiful girl.
Yeah.
Her name's Natalie. She's my wife now.
Mm-hmm.
And when we met, there was she was coming to Christ for the Nations. I was serving at my church in Hurst, Texas, about 30 minutes away. Never heard of Christ for the Nations at all. Long story short, me and her get married, and I have to move from Hurst to Dallas. And so it comes around the time about a month before we have to move, and we're gonna move in together. We're gonna get married, and everybody's asking me, "Oh, Grant, have you found a job in Dallas yet? Have you found this? What are you gonna do for money?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna trust God to say that He's gonna provide for me, and that
for sure.
I'm gonna go after Him." And everybody's like, "That's not smart, though. Faith without works is dead. You gotta go do something." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I can't get a job that's in Dallas if I'm in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
I could, but I don't want to be driving an hour every day, especially because I'm finishing up school at a community college there."
Yeah, and just getting married. I mean, all that. That's a huge transition.
Oh yeah, planning a wedding and all that.
That's massive.
And so they're like, "Well, Grant, you have to have money somehow." And I'm like, "Look, I have a little bit of money saved up. It was like $300. I'm like, we're gonna be okay." And they're like, "How are you gonna pay for your school bill? How are you gonna do this? How are you gonna do that?" I'm like, "Look, I don't know. I'm just gonna trust God."
Yeah.
And to everybody that I was talking to, my friend, even my dad mainly, and my best friend, they were like, "Grant, but that's not smart. You got to do something." And I was like, it kind of like brought me down, and I was like, "No, maybe I do got to do something." So I kind of try to research in jobs, and I couldn't really find anything. And at that point, I was working lifeguarding. I'm just gonna be honest, I was making $14 an hour lifeguarding. And so it was at the school. I was all by myself in this big pool. So I had a lot of responsibility since I was the only lifeguard at the time. I was getting paid $14 an hour. And so I was like, "Man, I don't want to work for less than 14. I've been working for $14 an hour for 2 years now."
Yeah.
And so we move. I don't have a job. We get married, we go on a honeymoon, we move here. I don't have a job.
You feel like God called you to that next phase, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so we got married, and I knew that was His plan.
Yeah.
And He told me, I was looking for a Bible school, and so He's like, "Hey, come to CFNI. Your wife's going there anyway." And I was like, "That's exactly what I want to do."
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm like, "Yeah, I'm called to CFNI. I know God's doing this. I know He's going to provide for me."
Yeah, definitely.
And I just need to seek after Him. And so we move here, and I'm looking for jobs, and I apply, I go to some job fairs, and nothing's working out for that first week. And I'm like, "Man, God, I need a job. Now that I'm here, like I'm trusting that You're going to provide for me, and I'm seeking after You." And so we're driving around one day, me and my wife, we're going to get something to eat, and I passed this Toyota dealership. And if you know anything about me, I love Toyotas, I love cars. And so I'm like, "Man, I should apply there." But, they're going to have to work with my schedule. I don't know if they're looking for part-time people, but I might as well try. So I go in, I walk in, I'm like, "Hey, are y'all hiring?" And they're like, "Yeah, but we're kind of looking for full-time people.
Yeah.
Apply online. You never know what's going to happen. They may work with you." I'm like, "Okay." Yeah. So I go and apply online for this position. And so they're like, "Grant, come in for an interview. We're actually looking for some people." So I come in, and I'm like, "I can only work part-time." And they're like, "Oh, okay, well, the job you applied for is full-time." And I'm like, "Okay." I was like, "It's okay if it's not a good fit. I'm sorry for wasting your time." And they're like, "Well, we do have something over here on the side that we could be using part-time.
Yeah.
You could help people, greet people when they come in for service, and you can do that." And they're like, it doesn't pay much. It's only like $8.50 an hour.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I didn't want to work for $8.50, especially because now I have to provide for 2 people.
Yeah, and school payments, and then bills, and then now you have a family. You're married. That's a lot of expenses.
Exactly. And so I was like, you know what? It's okay though. I have it's a job.
Yeah.
So I can work for something later.
Yeah.
And so it turns out that I get this job and everything works out.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad and my best friend, those people that were telling me, hey, you need to find a job.
Yeah.
You need to get it before you get there. How are you supposed to find a job within a week over there, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, Grant, I don't know how you did it. And it was literally, we moved into our apartment, and it was actually the day of my birthday that they called me in for that interview.
Yeah.
And so it was so crazy because I was determined to go after God in that time.
Yeah.
I was like, I know that you called me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I know I'm going to be moving there, I'm kind of doing it all in faith, kind of stepping out in faith. I'm going to move there, and there's not going to be a job waiting for me when I get there. I'm just going to have to find something. And so it was really stretching my faith to do that. And then also it felt good. It felt good to see the favor that I have on my life because I'm following after God.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it says
what is
to
it?
seek first the kingdom of God, and that's what you were doing in that. So God gave you direction. He says, "This is what I want you to do." So in doing that, He says, "Let's go to Bible college, and let's get you trained up for ministry."
Exactly.
That's headed straight for what God wants you to do, seeking first His kingdom.
Right.
Because His kingdom is to reach other people, and going to ministry school to train for ministry, you're helping other people.
Exactly.
And God promises right here that if you seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, then everything else will be added unto you.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about your needs or how things are going to be paid for, because in the time whenever you're seeking after God's kingdom and you're not focused on yourself, then God's saying, I'll focus on you if you just focus on me.
Yeah, and that's so true.
Yeah, and you're just hanging on to that promise. And I love how it unfolded. I mean, even on your birthday, like, what kind of sign is that? It's like, happy birthday, I'm taking care of you.
Yeah, and I thought that was so cool. And my wife, whenever I got that job, we were just celebrating. We're like, God, I'm not the provider of my family.
Yeah.
Like, God, you're the provider of my family.
Yeah.
And even later on in that verse, it reads that the birds don't sow and reap.
Yeah.
And how more valuable are you than the birds?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it talks about how the birds they don't do anything. They're just animals. But yet God gives them a place to lay their head down at night and food to eat.
Exactly.
So if He would take care of the birds, how much more would He take care of His Son that He gave life to on this earth, that He loves, that He gave His own life for?
Amen.
He wants to give to you more than you want to get from Him.
Yeah.
He's
That's
madly
so
in love with you.
So good.
So anybody that's listening, I mean, if you're going through a transition is always hard.
Yeah.
It's difficult, especially if you're hanging on to a promise of God, because you're going to have naysayers.
Yeah.
You're going to have people in your life that says, well, you don't need to do that because that just doesn't make logical sense.
Exactly.
But most of the time, we can't fathom the next steps because we can't see the future. But God knows our past, and He plans out our steps, and He goes before us. And if He tells you to do something, then even if it doesn't look like it's going to work, like, well, I don't have money to take care of my I have a wife, I have to pay for an apartment, I have to pay for both of our schools. Logically, it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
But God promises if you just seek His kingdom first, and if you just set your life up with righteousness, seeking after Him, that He's going to take care of all your needs. He's going to take care of you. He's going to provide for you. And that's just amazing. I'm glad to hear that you chose to, despite what everyone said, to push forth and just say, God, this is what you promised me. I know you're going to take care of me. And He did. And He's still doing it to this day.
Come on, yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, to anybody listening, just remember that the Word promised you if you just seek after God and His righteousness, that He'll take care of all your needs. You won't have to worry about that. But yeah, we just want to thank you for tuning in today to God Works Podcast. Just be listening for the next video and then audio that we're going to put up, and just keep hanging out with us and learning so we can keep growing together. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
Bye, guys.